Greetings, Bat Family. Welcome back to Holy Batcast, brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. Visit our website, holybatcast.com, or find us all over social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube. Search for Holy Batcast. You will find us. If you love the show, you want to help support us, you can do that on Patreon. You go to patreon.com/holybatcast. And as always, a big thank you to those of you who've done that. You guys are awesome. You make our lives easy. You're so supportive, and it really makes it all worth it. So I do got to give a little shout out here to patron Randy Rathermill because he just upped his pledge. So Randy, you didn't have to do that, but you did, and just know that it is greatly appreciated. That was very cool. It's always nice when that happens, especially right now when recording is so irregular. That support really does mean a lot. So thank you, Randy. Thank you to everybody who does help support the show. You guys are awesome. We're part of the Real Fans Podcast Network. You can check out all the shows that are part of the network at rf4rm.com. Quick little shout out to another show that is part of our network, but it's not on the landing page, but our pal Hunter's Grim Grinning Hosts. The reason I bring that up is because me and Jamie were just chatting about they did a horror movie sequel bracket, and it was very fun, but they made some really bad decisions. And so me and Jamie are ready to hunt them down one by one and yeah, show them the business end of, machete. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, check out Hunter's Grim Grinning Hosts and listen to that episode so you can be angry with Jamie and me. What else? I'm Andy, same as always. You can follow me on Twitter or on Instagram. It's just my name, Andy DeGenova. This episode is going to be like the last few episodes because the recording is so, as we can do it, they all just tend to be catch-up episodes of like, oh, here's everything we missed since the last time we recorded. I just mentioned him. You heard him. It's Jamie Drewley is back to join me for our next little catch-up. So, hi, Jamie.
I'm just using this as a public platform where I can say that the choice that I would have had as the number one movie in that bracket tournament being eliminated in the first round by a movie that I don't even know what business it had being in the bracket. Man, Phil, Hunter, guys, you're killing me with this.
I love those guys, but yeah, some of the judgment was a little questionable.
To be real about it, Andy and I were just talking about this for the last couple minutes, and those episodes were an absolute blast to listen to. So everybody that's into the whole horror, sequel stuff, go check those 2 episodes out on Grim Grinning Host. But be prepared for some sharp turns to happen in this bracket that you will not see coming.
Yeah.
Because I know I didn't.
These crazy people. Hunter's like, hey, who are the craziest people I can get to be on this to just completely screw up the results?
It was a lot of fun listening to the conversations, even the ones I didn't necessarily agree with. And there were several of those, please believe. It was a lot of fun listening to the reasoning behind that. Sometimes somebody was just like, yeah, I didn't like this movie, so it's a movie that exists and, move on. But there was some legitimate, thought-provoking conversation had about some of these films that I haven't seen or don't even consider worthy of having even been in contention in this to begin with. And it was just a good time. I can't rep it. I think it was 2 episodes, right?
Yeah, it was a 2-parter.
Yeah. So it was, I don't know, probably 4.5 hours worth of content. So it's good listen, a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was.
I'd recommend it.
For sure.
Just, buckle your seatbelt going in. Just be warned.
I will say it absolutely got me in the mood where I wanted to watch like all the horror movies. I was just, we're sneaking up on spooky season now, and I was like, those really got me in the mood to revisit some of my favorites or to check out ones I've never seen. And so I'm really starting to feel it. I mean, just the other day, me and Scotty went to Bath and Body Works because they put out their Halloween candles, and we just spent a little while smelling all the Halloween candles, just getting ready. So I know it's early. It's only August 1st today. But still, I'm starting to get that itch, that tingle, and I'm ready for all the pumpkins coming soon.
It's not that early, though. I mean, as we record right now, we're 31 days away from the Real Fans Scare-a-thon 2021. Oh, my God.
Away we go.
Kicking off September 1st, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. Cannot wait. I'm so ready. I got to start with my normal PSA or disclaimer about I'm sorry it's taken so long since we've recorded another episode. And we actually got a tweet, and I know you didn't see it, JB, because you don't check the tweets, which is smart. But we got a tweet the other day from one of our friends and listeners, Chris. Now, Chris is the very nice listener who sent us all a Batarang last year. You remember Chris?
Yeah.
Which is great. Like, I finally, once I got home to the States, I finally like found it, and I was like, "Hey, Chris, just FYI, I found it. Thanks again. It's great."
Mine's sitting right here in front of me. I have my layout of my fall candles from the last couple of years, which
Wonderful.
is my spiced pumpkin pecan and my apple cinnamon and a standard pumpkin. And then I have a box of tissues, and right next to the box of tissues is that Batarang. No bullshit. Looking right at it.
Well, now that I have it, I just carry it around for protection. In case I run into any muggers. I have got. But yeah, so Chris was very nice and sent us all a Batarang, which was awesome. But he tweeted, he goes, "Okay, Andy, you've been married. I'm sure you already got your honeymoon. It's time to get back to the Batcave and start recording new episodes." And I agree, but it's not as simple as that. And I don't remember how much detail I have shared in the past, but it's not like, oh, I was just waiting for the wedding. I am like still a vagrant person. Technically, I'm homeless. That's why. So in a week and a half, Catherine and I, now that we've been married, we head to Florida. We're moving to Orlando. Because we finished a Universal Studios park in China. Now we're about to go start a new Universal Studios park in Orlando. So we're moving to Orlando next month. Well, no, this month now. Never mind, this month. In a week and a half. And in the meantime, we're staying with our parents. We're staying with friends. We're staying at hotels. And so I don't always even have a place to record. So just a couple days ago, me and Jamie had great plans. We both blocked out time to record. I had time. He had time. I didn't have a place to record, because I was like just out and about and there was nowhere to go. So I was like, well, never mind. Can't do it today. Gonna have to wait another couple days. So yeah, I got back. I got married. We're moving across the country. We're buying a house. The good news is we found a house, and so we're in the process of buying it. So that's exciting, but that's another big thing. So it's a lot of life stuff happening right now. And that's why it's gotten much harder to make these shows happen. But the good news is, in a week and a half, I'll get to Florida. I'll be able to finally unpack, because I've been living out of a suitcase for the past 2 months since I've gotten back. And I can finally unpack and have a little more downtime where hopefully now the scheduling will click in and be a little more regular. So that's why, it wasn't just waiting for the wedding. It's all this other stuff, buying a house and moving. And so we cannot wait to be settled somewhere, but in this case, we're going to be settled in Orlando, close to Hunter and, Michael Lyons and a lot of old friends, a lot of our old friends from Beijing. So we're excited, but again, thanks for your patience. This is why it's been so tough getting these episodes out.
It's you guys, I can't believe you're still standing upright with all the things that have been going on in your life the last couple of years. So, I mean, you're a strong pair of people, stronger together, kind of like apes. Apes stronger together. Did you know they're stronger together?
Yep.
But I just can't believe as much money as a top-of-the-line Frigidaire costs these days that it wouldn't have decent Wi-Fi in the box when you were, done taking the fridge out.
Right? Maybe that's the key. You need to find a better box to live in. But yeah, we've been dragging our suitcases around for 2 months, and I'm just like, oh, I'm done. I'm so done. Right now, Catherine's sleeping in the other room, and I'm in her parents' house recording this with you. So doing what I can.
The sacrifices he makes for you people to make sure this show happens in some capacity. If you only knew.
Yeah, I try my best. So
it makes me want to join the Patreon thing.
Oh, that's nice.
I just got 2 puppies yesterday, so my money's going to that right now.
That's okay. Fair enough. So anyway, guys, again, just a couple more weeks, and hopefully then we'll get more regular. The good news is, once we're there, we have a big movie coming out, The Suicide Squad. So that will not come out opening weekend like we usually do. It's just probably going to be a week later, but that's okay. It'll give everyone a chance to watch it more than once, either at their local theater or on HBO Max, whatever they choose. But yeah, that'll probably be the next thing, which is exciting. We eventually got to get to the long Halloween. That was another thing. Brendan's like, hey, did you still want to do that? I was like, yes, I do, but I don't know when or where. So let's just wait. So at this point, Long Halloween probably will happen a little bit closer to the Halloween season. So maybe that's a blessing in disguise. Long Halloween Part 2 has come out digitally, though, this last week. And I've not watched it because it's funny. Jamie, you're waiting until you can get it all at once. Yeah. I'm at least waiting for the disc so I can have the discs. So the digital one came out this week and I didn't watch it. I'm waiting for the disc, which comes out next week. And so I'm like trying to avoid spoilers. Not that it's that big a deal because I have read the book, but apparently there are tweaks along the way. So I'm just trying to stay as fresh as I can. But yeah,
I caught a little bit of chatter in the Real Fans group the other day. No spoilers or anything, but apparently there were some tweaks made in this second part that has some fans saying interesting choice that they made. I kind of like the different direction. And then there's, of course, some purists who are like, I can't believe that this travesty exists. So
wow, interesting.
Now I'm kind of curious to watch it just to see for myself.
Yeah, me too. Again, I loved the first half.
I literally fall on either side of that spectrum. Like, Gotham by Gaslight, I actually think the changes to that improve the story.
Yeah, I agree.
But we'll see where I fall on this one when I finally get around to it. And by the way, don't wait for that episode for me. If you guys get a chance to do it before price and combination of the two movies and all that happens, don't wait on me for that. The people want to hear, I'm sure.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll get to it. I know Brennan's down, but again, I'm waiting at least till the disc comes out. But at this point, we'll have the Suicide Squad. We'll probably have more in the next few weeks, and then, then we're getting closer to Halloween season anyway. So it's all good.
Brendan's busy touching himself to the Olympics right now, anyhow. So.
Right? Yeah, it's not like he's available anyway. He made Olympics cookies.
He took 2 weeks off of work for this.
Did he?
Yes.
I did not realize that. That's crazy.
Of course, in Australia, they apparently only work like 12% of the time that we do here.
So. I mean, every other country, gets a lot more vacation than we do. The United States gets the least vacation, I think, of any of any big country.
Crazy.
So anyway, yeah, we'll get around to that. I am looking forward to it. I can't wait for the second half. So just trying to, and at this point, I did see some things I had to dodge the first day or two, and it seems like that's quieted down anyway. So I'm like, I think I'll be all right. And also, I'm just in my old age. I just get less bent out of shape about spoilers anyway. I'm like, it just is what it is. There's only so much you can do.
That's kind of where I'm at too. I do my best not to actively seek them out, but if one lands in my face that, in most cases I just don't care anymore.
Yeah, right.
Like if somebody spoils the Pattinson Batman film for me, I'm probably going to be a lot more tense than, somebody say dropping something about Black Widow.
Sure.
I'm not as invested there, so it just doesn't faze me as much.
Yeah, definitely.
Long Halloween, I have a pretty good idea of how, that could or should end. If the ending's different, somebody spoils it for me, not that big of a deal. Suicide Squad, I mean, I'm not as invested in that as I am Batman, so if that gets spoiled, not a big deal. In fact, I was asking some questions about that to Real Fan Andy Gale the other day because he'd seen it because he's out in the UK, and of course it's been released there. And for anybody out there that's like me, I'll at least relay what was said to me in that thread by several people who joined the conversation. I was terrified of the humor from the trailers, and I'm told that the bulk majority of that type of humor is what you see in the trailers, not what's actually in the film. Okay. So I'm taking a little bit of plus from that.
All right, that's good. Well, we're going to get to some reactions to the Suicide Squad, but we're going to do that later. Let's start with some other random stuff. This first one is very random, but it's kind of fun. Do you remember hearing about the narrative podcast, the Batman podcast by David S. Goyer?
Yes.
Well, we've got a little bit of casting information. So the podcast is called Batman Unburied. It's the Spotify Batman podcast, and we now know who Batman will be. Mr. Winston Duke.
Really?
Yeah.
I kind of like that choice.
Yeah, it's really fun. So Winston Duke, most famously from Black Panther, but also from Us. And what I loved about Us was just how different I loved him playing like the dorky dad. It was so cool because I didn't even recognize him at first as M'Baku, and I was like, oh shoot, that is him. So he's got range, is my point.
That guy had one of my favorite lines from any movie of the last probably 3 to 5 years in Black Panther when Martin Freeman starts talking and he basically tells him, shut up or I'm going to feed you to my kids. And then he goes, I'm just kidding. We're vegetarians. For some reason, that line tickled my funny bone and I still laugh every time I see it.
I appreciate that, and the only negative thing I'll say about that character is it gave Leroy license to bark at us when he wanted us to stop talking. You remember? He went through that little phase where we would talk and he would just arr, arr, arr.
Oh, madness.
So anyway, yeah, he is going to be playing Batman, which I agree with you. I think it's very cool. It's very different. And another great Alfred that is one of those that once they said it, I went, oh yeah, like this is someone who could play Alfred in live action, Jason Isaacs.
Oh, that's the bad guy from Mel Gibson's Patriot movie, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
He's also, from Harry Potter. The hell's his name? Oh,
Draco?
I'm blanking. He's the other one, Lucius
Draco,
Malfoy. He's Lucius Malfoy.
Lucius, okay.
Yeah.
Draco's the kid.
Yeah.
I should know this. These puppies we just got are both named after Harry Potter characters. So, yeah, I lost that battle, by the way.
Boo. And he was Captain Hook in that Peter Pan live action movie from like 15, 20 years ago, which is actually a surprisingly good movie. Anyway, he's talented. And when I went, oh, him as Alfred? Sure, that makes perfect sense.
Didn't he voice Batman at one point too? Or some other DC character? Perhaps?
He did. But I can't remember who it was. I don't think it was Batman. Was it Ra's al Ghul?
Maybe. I don't know, man. They change them around so much. They get
Yeah.
so much talent involved in these movies. It's hard to keep track of who did what when.
Yeah. And then we got an additional synopsis. This says, when audiences meet Bruce Wayne, he is a forensic pathologist working in the bowels of Gotham Hospital and tasked with examining the victims of the Harvester, a gruesome serial killer preying on Gotham citizens. Not only will the superhero be forced to face his own mental demons, but he will also have to overcome them in order to save the citizens of Gotham as his alter ego Batman. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's a new take.
Yeah, Bruce Wayne is a forensic pathologist. That's very different. I wonder,
I ain't mad at it.
Yeah.
It's just unusual. I mean, it still makes him a form of a detective at that point. So, it's hard to really be mad at that. Is he still going to be a billionaire, but he's doing this to, be a benefit to society and to keep his ear to the grindstone about what's happening in crime? Or
that all checks
does he
out.
not have the money and he's just like a common citizen type of a superhero here? I'm curious to see what shakes out of that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that does seem very feasible. Is like, oh, he's still a billionaire, but he's a forensic pathologist again to help Gotham at the same time, sort of following the footsteps of his father, who was a doctor. Like, it's kind of interesting. So,
like I say, I'm not mad at it. I'm curious to see what would shake out of that. I don't know if I don't have Spotify. I imagine that's just as easy as downloading an app to get, though.
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to cost money to listen to the podcast, or is that just included with a Spotify?
As long as you have a Spotify account, you should be able to listen.
But I don't have an account.
I think there is a free Spotify version.
Okay.
I don't use it much, but I have used it in the past. So I think that you can use it somewhat for free, and then you can upgrade. But yeah, God, it's been so long since I've used it. So we'll be interesting.
You never know if it's a runaway type of a success. If they don't have it already in plans, they might wind up releasing some sort of a comic book story to coincide with it, because they wound up doing that with the what was the Batman video games? Telltale, is that what the Batman games were called?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they did a comic book version of that. I mean, it wasn't, precisely the same thing, but it was, kind of down that same path. And I read that, and I thought it was pretty good. So, And there were certainly changes to Batman's history made in that one.
Definitely. Oh,
minor spoilers. That's the one where Thomas Wayne turned out to be kind of a dickhead.
Right.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, that's cool. That's coming up. Speaking of voice casting, though, we also got some voices for the Injustice animated film.
I'm definitely looking forward to this one, so lay that on me.
Yeah. So what's funny is I knew this had been announced, but I hadn't even looked prior to now. But our Superman used to be a Green Arrow. Justin Hartley is Superman. Yeah.
Interesting. Legacy casting.
Right. Anson Mount is Batman.
I know the name, but I can't quite place it.
He was the lead in, oh my God, what the hell was it? Oh, I'm blanking. This is what I get for doing it in the morning. You know that what was that terrible Marvel show that like didn't last? Inhumans. He was the lead of
Okay.
Inhumans.
I didn't watch that, so
Well, yeah.
I'm apparently not the only one.
Laura Bailey is Lois Lane and Ramakrishna. Zach Callison is Damian and Jimmy Olsen. Brian T. Delaney is Green Lantern. Brandon Michael Hall is Cyborg. Edwin Hodge is Mr. Terrific and Killer Croc. Oliver Hudson is Plastic Man. Jillian Jacobs is Harley Quinn. Yuri Lowenthal is Mirror Master, Flash, and Shazam. Derek Phillips is Nightwing and Aquaman. Kevin Pollak is the Joker and Jonathan Kent. Anika Noni Rose is Catwoman. Reed Scott is Green Arrow and Victor Zsasz. Farron Tahir is Ra's al Ghul. Fred Tatasciore is Captain Atom. Janet Varney is Wonder Woman. And Andrew Morgado is Mirror Master Soldier.
I think I recognize like 4 of those names.
Yeah, a lot of them are voice actors or and doing their thing, but obviously Justin Hartley and Anson Mount are kind of the biggies. Anika Noni
Kevin
Rose,
Pollak in there, right?
what?
Kevin Pollak, you said?
Yeah, which that's kind of awesome. Kevin Pollak as the Joker, he's amazing.
His walking impression is freaking amazing.
He's so good. So yeah, that I thought was inspired. And then Anika Noni Rose, you know who she is?
I should. I for some reason that name strikes a minor bell, but I can't quite place it.
It is Princess Tiana from The Princess and the Frog.
Oh, okay. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So very cool. Yeah, I love the legacy casting of Justin Hartley. I think Anson Mount, again, I didn't watch The Inhumans, and I can't remember what he was famous for before that.
He's definitely got to be from something else, because I know I'll have to look it up later when, I'm not wasting somebody's listening time here, but somebody's screaming in the answer at me right now anyway. It's from something else, because I certainly would not have known him from that.
Right. But he seems like a good choice for Batman. Oh, and the other one was Jillian Jacobs, so I believe is from Community.
I didn't watch Community, and I don't really know that name.
And now I've got to look it up because I'll feel bad if that is incorrect. But I think that's who that is. Community was a hoot. I did love it, and she is Harley. Yeah, Jillian Jacobs from Community. That's her.
Okay.
Yeah, she's awesome, and so her as Harley, I can totally see that. I think that would be great.
Now, it's interesting how many people are taking multiple duties on with this project. Some of these people are doing 2 or 3 voices, but at the same time, this is such a massive scale thing as far as how many characters are involved that I kind of get the economics of, maybe we'll have some of these people throw them a little extra and they can, pull off 2 or 3 more voices for us here. It makes sense. I would rather that somebody do it that way. I would certainly rather somebody do it that way than having to either raise the budget and shorten the time or sacrifice in some other department, hiring more people to voice various characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I certainly don't want them cutting characters out of this story, because most of them play a pretty important and sizable role in it.
Yeah. Well, and this is not abnormal for the animated films, especially for the characters who don't have as much dialogue. It's pretty common for one actor to cover multiple characters, so that's cool.
And if they're doing like villain roles where they get like one line for them or something like that, I've certainly seen that before. But like somebody's voicing Flash, Mirror Master, and Shazam, that's a lot of work right there. I mean, it's just is what it is. I ain't mad at it. It's just interesting that Shazam and Flash are the same guy.
Yeah, definitely. So that's coming soon. Very soon. I want to say it's like the end of the summer.
Is it really?
I think so.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I remember when they did the first sneak peek and we were like, oh crap, like that doesn't leave a lot of room for Long Halloween 2. But now that Long Halloween 2 is out, I want to say that is very soon. So something to keep an eye out for. God, we're going to have so many animated movies to catch up on once we can.
Say that'll be like a month worth of episodes.
Oh my God. Yeah, we're so behind on so many of them. But all right, well, great. It gives us more grist for the mill. So that is coming. Something else that is in the works, which is really interesting, is that Michael B. Jordan, who, has been fan cast as a Superman now for years, is apparently working on something with HBO Max for a Val Zod Superman something. Movie, limited series. We don't really know. But this came from Collider, is that Michael B. Jordan and his production company are developing a Black Superman project for HBO Max.
And this is totally separate from the Ta-Nehisi Coates one.
Yeah, this is totally separate from the J.J. Abrams Ta-Nehisi Coates one. I know.
I mean, the more content, the better. I ain't mad at that, of course, but I would have been very surprised. I saw that article posted, and of course, I'd click on almost nothing anymore because I'm just
I know.
curmudgeon-y about that stuff. But I just automatically assumed, for some reason, shame on me, that was going to be the Superman for the Ta-Nehisi Coates one.
I did hear a rumor. Take it as you will. It's just a rumor. But I did hear a rumor that this started as one project, as Michael B. Jordan and the Ta-Nehisi Coates project were one and the same, and at a certain point they were split and became two.
Like I say, more content, the better. So I'm okay with this.
Yeah. So
hopefully they didn't split because of some creative indifference that one of them wasn't willing to budge on or something. Hopefully it just got too big for one project, and they just said amicably, hey, you take this side, I'll take this side, and we'll see you later,
Yeah, exactly. So we're not really sure, but it will be interesting. So we'll see what happens. I mean, it is one of those things where it's like, will both of them get made? Well, it's so much stuff is in development and everything.
I know better than to make that guess anymore because there's a $1 billion Joker film floating out there that some of us thought was never going to happen. So
right. So I mean, I love Michael B. Jordan. I do think he'd be terrific. And so yeah, it's just one of those things. Or apparently this development is happening, and it'll be interesting to see what it evolves into.
I'm all for it.
But that's for HBO Max, but we do have more coming to HBO Max, including Batgirl. So what's crazy is that the news came out that they were testing multiple actresses to play Batgirl, and then I swear it was like 2 days later they had decided. It was so fast. It was crazy. So there were multiple actors who were testing. That includes Isabella Merced from 100 Things to Do Before High School, which I am not familiar with, and Zoe Deutsch from Zombieland 2 and The Politician, and then Haley Lou Richardson from 5 Feet Apart. So all the fans jumped on Zoe Deutsch because she's amazing. I don't know if you have watched any of those things, but she's so good. So that was
she like the secondary love interest in Zombieland 2?
Yes, she was she was the one they found in the mall.
Yeah, she was really good in that.
Oh my God, she was so funny. And she's also amazing on The Politician. She's great. So
I've not seen that.
It's amazing. Anyway, so they were like, oh, we're testing all these actors, and then 2 days later they're like, we have found our Batgirl, and that is actor Leslie Grace. So she was on that initial list, and Leslie Grace just made a huge splash in The Heights. She had the secondary lead in The Heights. She was great in it. She is Latina. And so that, of course, because it's the internet, has caused a little bit of controversy with the internet of Batgirl should be white with red hair. There's no reason a Latina actress can't have red hair. I'll just say that. But she was great.
Well, I don't know. I've seen what happens when Jessica Alba gets a blonde job, so I'm not sure I agree with that. But I also don't care if Batgirl is not a redhead and she just happens to be a Hispanic actress. That's fine with me.
Well,
I have no issue with it.
Well, I mean, also blonde is different than red. So She was great in the Heights. In the Heights was amazing. I loved it.
I did not see it.
It's so
but
good.
You know what? It left HBO Max 2 days after that news dropped into the Real Fans group, and I was like, I'd like to see this now. And of course, now I'd have to pay $20 to rent it. So I'm like, okay, now I'm going to wait like 3 months for it to circle back around to HBO Max again. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah. Totally worth checking out, especially, if you like musicals. But it was so great.
No, I don't like musicals. No, musicals aren't my...
Okay, well then never mind. So yeah, this came out. I think she is going to be great. Again, I also was excited about Zoe Deutsch, but when they announced this and I realized, oh, that's who that is, I was like, great, she'll be awesome. And so yeah, she went to Twitter and she's shared her excitement. She can't wait. But the fact that they went from testing to casting and her acknowledging it publicly within a couple of days, it really feels like this movie is moving along very quickly. It's going to be filming, I think, before we know it because they're wasting no time. But I think she's awesome. I think it's a great choice. I have no problem with her ethnicity. There's no reason that Commissioner Gordon couldn't have married a Hispanic woman. So yeah, I think she's going to be great, and I can't wait to see her.
I'm all in for it. Not like I haven't been asking for a Batgirl movie for Chuck's watch 25 years or so now.
Right. Well, we're going to finally get it, which is exciting. We have our Batgirl, which is a big deal. I can't wait. And
I'm calling it now. It's going to get released before The Flash. You watch, because Flash still isn't coming out yet.
Oh, stop it. But you can't have Barbara Gordon without her dad. So, a bit of a bombshell, actually, a few days, well, not a few days, maybe a week or so after this, that in addition to Leslie Grace as Barbara Gordon, there is an actor who is in talks to star as Commissioner Gordon, and that actor is none other than J.K. Simmons. So it looks like J.K. Simmons might be rejoining the DC family as Commissioner Gordon. This is not confirmed. He has not confirmed it publicly. But this was according to The Hollywood Reporter, which is pretty reputable. And it says that he is currently in talks. So we don't know how that's going. I hope to God it happens because, wow, how awesome is that? I think that everyone sort of agrees that J.K. Simmons was inspired casting, and he was certainly great in his couple of scenes in Justice League, but there wasn't a lot there. And I think that was one of those big what ifs of, oh man, we really would have loved to have seen more of his Jim Gordon. And now we get a chance to, hopefully, if it all works out. And I think that this is amazing. I saw this and I was like, oh, hell yeah, count me in. I sure hope this happens because he would be amazing. And it's a great way to tie it to existing continuity without, they can acknowledge as much or as little as they want, but it still builds that bridge and sets this Batgirl movie in continuity. So, yeah, thoughts on Simmons coming back as Jim Gordon?
Listen, I love this guy. I mean, he's in one of my favorite movies of the year so far. He didn't have a huge role in the movie, but boy, his role was really good, and I loved him in it. And that was The Tomorrow War on Amazon. If you guys haven't checked that out, I cannot recommend it enough. I was blown away by how much I enjoyed that film. Currently sitting at my number 2 for the year, honestly. Anyway, yeah, J.K. Simmons, man, the guy's great. I mean, when doesn't he bring his A game to a part? From playing the dad in Juno to Jim Gordon in Justice League to Tomorrow War to, several Coen Brothers films, the guy is always a great performer. And he's entertaining and charismatic and charming, and he just, whatever they ask of him in a role, he delivers in spades. And I love this news. Of course, the big question, as you mentioned, is continuity. Is this going to link it to the Snyderverse automatically, or is this just sorry we didn't get Jim Gordon more time on the screen, so here's kind of a redo to get him another shot and get him out here for the people to see what might have been.
Yeah.
Frankly, I'm good either way. I would much rather this be in continuity, but if it's not and he's just getting kind of a chance for a redo on the part, I'm okay with that too.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that it's going to be a lot. I mean, I don't know how much they're going to mention or how much they will refer to Justice League or anything like that, or in continuity, Ben Affleck's Batman, stuff like that. But just the casting itself really allows us as fans to put it in continuity. They don't even have to mention things that had happened prior, but if he's Jim Gordon, then you go, oh yeah, okay, this is Ben Affleck's Gotham. This is the one where his Batman is out there. And I think that's great. Like, it sounds like that's what happened with the Suicide Squad is, yeah, they used the same cast as the first film, but they never really referenced the first film. So it's as in or out of continuity as you want it to be. And that could be the same thing here. But I still think this is a huge win. He's a great actor, perfectly cast in a role that we didn't get a lot of. And so this is a way to make that right. And for everybody who wants to consider this in continuity, then they'll be able to. And again, so there's no reason that J.K. Simmons is Jim Gordon. We don't know who his wife is, and I've already seen fan castings for his wife, which I think would be cool. But yeah, like whoever his wife could be, they could certainly have a daughter who is Leslie Grace. So yeah, this is awesome. It's very unexpected, but like completely welcome unexpected. I think that, again, now I'm going to be really bummed out if it doesn't pan out because they got my hopes up.
I definitely agree with that point. I just, caught a headline of it the other day scanning through one of the groups, and I saw it, and I'm like, is this from a reputable source? And I kind of looked at it, and it's like, well, maybe. So we'll see what happens. I'm like you. I'd pretty much resigned myself to Batgirl was just going to go off and do its own thing and be separate from Pattinson, be separate from the Snyderverse, be separate from everything. And that was still okay. I'm not, crying in my pillow at night about that. But, I love Batgirl as a character. I love Barbara Gordon as a character. And I certainly want her to get her, beyond past due comeuppance on a screen. It's overdue to happen, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I was excited any which way, but the fact that this possibly now is going to have Simmons and possibly is going to be tied into continuity, shoot. Mm-hmm. Get ready to catch me. That's all I can say.
Well, totally. And you're right. It could have just been its own thing. They could have just cast a new actor to be Jim Gordon, and it was just its own little standalone Batgirl movie, which would have been fine. But it just makes it, I think, so much stronger where you either make it Jeffrey Wright's Gordon from the Batman, and you tie it into that, or you make it J.K. Simmons's, and you tie it into the larger DCEU. So I do think this is the right choice. And yeah, like, do we really need a third offshoot at this point? So I think it's awesome. I think it's great news.
And this is HBO Max, yes?
Yeah.
That could just wind up being God, I don't even want to say it out loud because it just, that spark of hope. And I know hope is a great thing and all, but HBO Max could be the hub for the Snyderverse. I mean, it's
don't say
possibilities there. I'm just saying.
You know what, Jamie? There can be no despair without hope.
That's true. Makes me want to go drink some seawater now.
Well, awesome news. When this came out, I was like, oh man, hell yeah, that's so great. And this was just a few days ago. So I hope to God that they make the deal and we get to see J.K. Simmons in a whole movie as Jim Gordon. Because yeah, it was just such great casting, and I want to see more of him. That was one of my only nitpicks about Zack Snyder's Justice League is we lost one of the scenes with him.
Just a real quick tail to put on this discussion. What do you prefer? Do you prefer Gordon being oblivious to his daughter being Batgirl? Do you prefer him knowing and not saying anything to her and she thinks he doesn't know but he does? Or do you just prefer him knowing and, cautiously kind of helps her out and watches over her and whatnot? Which version do you prefer?
That's a great question. I think I prefer him not knowing and then eventually figuring it out but not saying it overtly. I think I like that best.
I don't mind that, but to me, that's always sort of undermined Gordon's intelligence and skill as a policeman. So I think my personal preference, and I can go with any one of the three and be fine, mind you. I'm not going to be huffing at it if it's not the way I want it to be. I think I prefer she thinks he doesn't know, but he really does and just doesn't say anything.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I think it's funny because I think that all of those are appropriate, but I think that when you start the story, he has to not know. And at least for this first movie, that's how I would do it. Is I would start the movie where he doesn't know, and by the end he knows, but she doesn't know he knows. I think that's what I would do.
Kind of pull the Aunt May thing where she opens the door and sees the costume at the end of the movie. Right?
So I just love seeing how quickly this movie is progressing. I'm really looking forward to it, and I love that it's really ramping up. I think it's going to be great.
And count me all in for it. That's all I can say.
Same here. So that's great. So they're getting ready to film, but what is filming right now is Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. And so they'd already started production. We knew that. James Wan already announced that. But it seems like when they started doing things without Jason Momoa. And so he arrived a week or two later. And so he did post to Instagram that he'd arrived in London to start shooting Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. And the thing that was interesting about his post is he said, London calling, so excited to start Aquaman 2. We are here. Goodbye, Brown. Hello, Blondie. Mahalo to everyone for support on the HD Momoa line with Harley Davidson, and all my love to the cast and crew of C. I love you, Canada. Okay. But yeah, a lot of people saw the thing about Goodbye, Brown. Hello, Blondie. So is he finally going to get blonder hair? Or is it just going to be sort of what we'd seen in the past where there are sort of blonde sun-drenched highlights? But yeah, it's kind of interesting. Great that he's there. Great that production continues. But I'm curious as to see what that means as far as giving Aquaman an updated hairstyle. Because that was something I always said. Is I'm like, I'd give him a haircut. But I don't know if he's ever going to cut his hair. But see how blonde he goes.
I mean, I think in this case, and again, my own preferences, I can't speak for anybody else. Giving him the sun bleached highlights is perfectly fine. That makes sense. But giving him like the full blown blonde, man, with his skin tone and such, I just don't know how well that's going to look.
Yeah, you couldn't go like blonde, but you could certainly go a little heavier than we've seen in the past.
Yeah, whatever they shake out with, I'm sure I'll be fine. I mean, it's not, the aesthetic never bothered me to start with. He put on a costume by the end of his movie and all that other stuff. So as long as they stay with that, I think everything will be good with me. The hair is just kind of an inconsequential thing said and done. I don't want him coming out there looking like Billy Idol or something, I don't need that.
I mean, that'd be kind of cool though.
I am with a rebel yell. I'm going to start calling Jason Momoa the Stone. And I say that because I think the only person in the world that puts out more product than him on a screen right now is The Rock. So Between the two of them, The Rock, the Stone, I mean, they work nonstop, man. And there's something to be said for the work ethic that these two gentlemen have that really I have to tip my hat to, because I don't know how they find the time to sleep, man. I don't.
I know, yeah.
Just nonstop
busy guys. So, yeah, and it is one of those things where it's like I've already accepted what we have seen in the past. So it's like whatever they choose to do, but a little blonder. Every step closer to what I see on a comic page makes me happier. So I still think that could be cool.
I get that, but to play devil's advocate to that point, changing somebody's look to satisfy a diehard fan for comic aesthetics to the point where it becomes something laughable on a screen is not my preference either.
No, I know, but generally that's not an issue.
Momoa is a dark-complected guy, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, obviously. I mean, I love this guy, but he just doing him with blonde hair, blonde eyebrows, blonde, he's probably not going to shave his face, so you got to do his facial hair all blonde too. This could get comical in the wrong way real quick.
Oh, are you going back to the Jessica Alba thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's the point where they changed her eye color between movies. I just watched these the other day because I actually kind of like those movies. But they changed her eye color from the first movie to the second one, trying to fit a certain mold. Mm-hmm. It's like, dude, she's Jessica Alba. She looks fine the way she is. If you want her as Sue Storm, there's no reason where you have to go with this ridiculous blonde look for it. Just let Jessica Alba in the part. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Or if you were that desperate to have a blonde, you should have hired a freaking blonde actress, Just, I don't know. These things shouldn't bother me, but it just kind of does.
Well, all right. I mean,
anyway, Aquaman, blonde, fine, as is fine, whatever. I'm good.
all right. Well, the important thing is the movie's getting made, which is exciting. You know what other movie's getting made, Jamie? Give you a guess.
If there ain't a trailer for it, I don't want to hear it.
It's getting made! The Flash continues production. And the set pics continue to show up online, and I don't reshare them, I don't repost them, but you also have to be living under a rock to miss them.
Well, I'm apparently under rock way number 1 here because I haven't seen any.
What? You didn't see the set pics that came out last week?
I have not seen one bit of them. The only set pics that I've seen, and for some reason they won't stop popping up in my feed, is the ones of the Batmobile.
Oh, wow. So that's interesting because this one, I mean, obviously it is most prevalent on Twitter, which I know you're not on, which I understand, but someone put these in the movie group. Someone put these in the Real Fans group.
I must have missed it then.
Huh. Must have been an off day. But yeah, like, it's funny because I don't repost them. Just I try to be respectful, but at the same time, it's like you also can't miss them. They're everywhere. It's too late. The toothpaste is out of the tube. You can't put it back in. So it's one of those weird things where it's like, even though I don't repost them, I still feel like we have to mention it on the show to give some thoughts and reactions to it. I wouldn't call anything particularly spoilery. I mean, at least it's not spoilery from a story standpoint. It is spoilery as far as what we may or may not see in the film. And so these latest photos that came out are of Ben Affleck's Batman suited up. It's not Ben Affleck because he's out gallivanting with J-Lo. So it's another stuntman.
Is it Richard Citrone?
It's not Richard.
Well, ain't that a bitch?
Yeah, it's not Richard, but it is a stuntman dressed in the Affleck Batman suit on a bat bike. You really haven't seen these?
I have not. Hand to God, I haven't seen one bit of it.
That is so crazy. Okay, I'm going to send you the picture because you can't react unless you've seen it.
All right.
So everybody, stand by.
As he's doing that, I'll give everybody the PSA. This is now the second time it's popped up for me. Suicide Squad is premiering a special preview in theaters and HBO Max August 5th, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, just so you all are aware.
I'm trying to find the best photo to send you because there's quite a few of them. Like I said, there's so many of them. Well, because they're out shooting in the streets. They're shooting in, I think, Glasgow.
That's where they're shooting the Batman, isn't it? Or were shooting parts of it?
I think so, but...
Because wasn't that where the building that we assumed was going to be Arkham Asylum was?
Yeah. All right, this is a pretty good photo. I'll send this one to you.
Is that coming in Messenger?
Yeah, coming in Messenger.
Interesting. It's got kind of a Bat-Pod-ish look to it, which I don't necessarily mind. I mean, motorcycles aren't my thing, but that's kind of where my head goes is to that. So I assume the cape will be a CGI matter on that.
That seems pretty likely. So anyway, they're out there. If you listen to a Batman podcast, chances are you've seen them. Again, they were out there. But if it's spoilery to know that Ben Affleck's version of Batman is probably riding a bat cycle at a certain point, I apologize. But that's what's out there. So a lot of fans were really excited to see it because they were like, oh, we didn't know if Batfleck was going to suit up.
Here's a dumb one for you. I'm enlarging this second picture you sent me, and it's like, did he order this armor from Amazon? Is that why that A's there? And I didn't realize that was somebody watermarking the picture. That's a far departure, that bat symbol and the armor and everything else. That's, selling a new action figure there, it would appear.
It's definitely a new version of the suit, but it is unmistakably the Ben Affleck version. I still am not convinced Ben Affleck will suit up, but this is a way for them to do that, to have an action sequence with his version of Batman and then just have Ben Affleck come in for a conversation in the Batcave or Wayne Manor or wherever. This allows them to do both. But I gotta say, I mean, of course it's great to see that he will suit up in one way or another, even if it's not Ben Affleck himself. But I loved the bike. I think the bike is badass. I really
It's kind of
like
a cross between a bat pod and Ray's speeder thing from Force Awakens.
Yeah. And I think that I've seen quite a few people point out it's very similar to what was in is it White Knight?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess it kind of is.
Yeah. It looks very much inspired by that. So this was really,
Have you
it's
read
really
that
cool.
yet, by the way?
Yeah,
White Knight?
I finally did. I really liked it.
I still have to finish the sequel series to it, but I really like White Knight a lot.
Yeah, I did not read the sequel, but I really liked the first one. I finally got around to it. So I think that it's a really cool Bat cycle. It's really cool seeing more things from this film. I'll tell you, this movie has got me more excited than a lot of most of the rest of the slate. Not that I'm not excited for the rest of the slate, but man, like this one, just I'm really into. And I will also say, like, what I am not getting aesthetically from the Batman, where I'm a little disappointed aesthetically from the Batman, I seem to be getting ironically from the Flash. So I'm very grateful for it.
Now, I did see, I guess, and somewhat related to this, I did see someone post the other day, and it was from a site that I'd never heard of before, so we all know how that always turns out, that there is somebody plug your ears if you don't want to hear this, because I know I didn't. There's a rumor that there's going to be like a massive fight between Keaton's Batman and Affleck's Batman in this movie. Now, number one, take that with a bag of salt. Number two, I don't really want that, because the conversations that were had when Superman was fighting Batman were enough. I mean, listen, I participated in that, but the reality of it is, it's said and done. I wanted the two of them to be shaking hands on a rooftop. You know what I'm saying? I don't want Batman to fight Batman to prove which Batman is better.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't need that in my life. I mean, if they scuffle for a minute or so, fine, until, Barry comes in and separates them and say, everything's cool. I know both of you, you're both on the up and up, that I'm okay with that. I don't need a 10-minute battle between Batman and Batman to fill up a slot there. It's just not what I need.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, I take it with a huge grain of salt. I don't know if I buy that, but
again, unsubstantiated and from a site I literally have never, I don't even remember what the site's name was, because I'd never read it before that day. So it could be one of those we got this covered scenarios.
It could be. And you're right, in theory, I'm like, I don't know if I need it. But if it's written into the story in a way that makes sense, I'm not necessarily opposed. But who knows? There's so many question marks around this movie, which is what's so fun about it. But yeah, it'll be interesting. But this was very cool. This was a very cool thing. Our friend Robert Reidke, I think he said something like, he goes like, yeah, I sure wish I had the option to decide if I wanted to see it. He goes, but there was just no way. So that aside, it looks awesome. But I felt the same way. It's like, it's a shame that you I mean, God bless you for avoiding it, because I found that there was no way to avoid these photos. They were everywhere. And not just Twitter. Yeah, people posting it on Facebook and stuff, being like, oh my God, look at this, look at this, look at this. So even if I wanted to not see them, I saw them. And again, my more old-aged, new-agey perspective is, oh well, now I know, it's fine. It's going to look much different in the movie. It's going to look much different in the trailer, so it's fine. But I think even though I didn't necessarily want to see it in advance, the fact that I have seen it, I love what I'm seeing. How about that?
Good enough.
So, exciting stuff. It's very cool. This movie, man, it's going to be so interesting to see how it plays out.
I sure hope it happens.
Well, if not, they got a lot of footage they can't use.
I know of somebody that made an entire movie that they never released, so.
Well.
Since we're on the topic of Fantastic Four today, anyhow.
Oh, right. I thought you were talking about David Ayer's Suicide Squad.
No, I was not.
Well, that's what I want to talk about for a second.
All right, let's.
So, people have already seen The Suicide Squad, right? They had a fan screening the other night. Most of the reactions were extremely positive. Like you said, Andy Gale from the Real Fans group, he went and saw it. A lot of people we know went and saw it. And I think almost unanimously they all loved it, which was great.
I think Joe Forner and Eric Carter were both in on that. And both of them had pretty much nothing but positive to say about it. So, I haven't seen any real backlash toward the film at all yet.
Yeah.
which is encouraging because I'm skittish about this one, as we talked about last time. So.
Right. So, no, seeing the reactions has been very encouraging, very exciting. It's great to see. And then the critics have loved it too. It's already out there on Rotten Tomatoes. It's currently at 97%, and I always have to do a disclaimer. I know that Rotten Tomatoes is not the end-all, be-all of all film criticism. I know that. But people still want to know what the percentage is, and it's an extremely high percentage. So the point is that the Suicide Squad is getting great reviews from fans and critics alike. People are loving it. They're saying it's great, and that's awesome. For me, I'll take the win for DC. I'll take an unmitigated win for DC any day of the week. So I hope it's that good. I can't wait to see it myself. I missed out on the opportunity to do the fan screening because by the time I even knew it was happening, it was already too late to try and sign up. But I was like, well, whatever. What are you going to do? Like I said, I've been very busy. So all of these reactions, have been very positive, and that's great news for this movie. But a lot of these reactions felt the need to use this movie to continue to shit on David Ayer's Suicide Squad that came out in 2016. And quite a few of these jerks tag him in it. They're talking crap about his movie from 5 years ago, and they tag him in it because they're jerks.
You know why? Because they're on a computer screen and he can't reach them.
Yeah.
This internet anonymity, man, I'm telling you, if people had to have these discussions face to face, they'd be a lot more civilized than what they are. And as somebody that lived through the era when these conversations only took place at the counter at the comic book shop, I can tell you they were far more civilized than what they are on a computer screen.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry for the minor rant there.
It's okay. So, because again, and that was so frustrating to me is I'm like, why? Like, it was 5 years ago, right? Like, if the new movie's great, that's great. We want it to be great. We want to love it, but it's just to use it to go pile on something from 5 years ago that someone worked really hard on. Like, come on. So, because of this, he wrote a very long letter to sort of just put his final word out there about the film. And so it's pretty long. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. You guys can find it if you want. But some highlights about Suicide Squad itself. He said, I put my life into Suicide Squad. I made something amazing. My cut is intricate and emotional journey with some bad people who are shit on and discarded, a theme that resonates in my soul. The studio cut is not my movie. Read that again. And my cut is not the 10-week director's cut. It's a fully mature edit by Lee Smith standing on the incredible work by John Gilroy. It's all Stephen Price's brilliant score and not a single radio song in the whole thing. It has traditional character arcs, amazing performances, and a solid third act resolution. A handful of people have seen it. If someone says they have seen it, they haven't. He said, I've never told my... Oh, he said, so yeah, should be clear by now. I don't have any quit in me, never have, and why should I? Everyday breathing is a gift. I thought my story was going to end in a grave or in a cell long ago, so these I'm living are bonus rounds. I'm honored and blessed to have the career I do. Quit after my kids watch me come home every day after the studio takeover of the edit with my heart torn out. Who would I be to them if I quit? I've never told my side of the story. I never will. Why? Same reason no one will ever know what happened on my submarine. I keep my covenants. I'm old school like that. So I kept my mouth shut and I took the tsunami of sometimes shockingly personal criticism. Why? That's what I've done my whole life. Real talk, I'd rather get shot at. I'm so proud of James Gunn and excited for the success that's coming. I support WB and I'm thrilled the franchise is getting the legs it needs. I'm rooting for everyone, the cast, the crew. Every movie is a miracle, and James' brilliant work will be the miracle of miracles. I appreciate your patience. I will no longer speak publicly on this matter.
That's a pretty classy statement, man. Listen, I've made it pretty clear before. I'm not the biggest fan of David Ayer's movies, but as a human being, this guy seems to be a stand-up dude. And for him to come out and say that in that fashion, the way that he did, remain civilized, but still kind of put his foot down, man, my hat's off to him for that.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And that's just it, it's a very honest, no BS statement of just really putting it out there, but at the same time, still trying to take the high road at every turn. And I always appreciate that about him too. You're right. Like I'm mixed on his filmography, but as a person, he's always been the class act. So it is heartbreaking to get more background info as far as how it was taken away from him. It really does sound like the cut was done. Like, so for me, that's the big thing. Is like, well, it's not like Zack Snyder's Justice League where you have to spend whatever it was, another $40 or $70 million. I can't even remember what it was anymore to finish it. It sounds like it was done. And I think it would go a long way to get it out there. I mean, and it ain't up to me, but if I was in charge of WB, I would just bite the bullet and go, hey guys, here's what happened. We screwed up when we took over Justice League and Suicide Squad. We screwed up and we learned our lessons and we won't do it again. And, hopefully you guys will go with us on this journey as we continue making more great DC content. But we're sorry, we screwed up, and here's David Ayer's movie, and onward and upward, especially because the people in power right now are not the ones who took the movies away. So it's much easier to go, hey, it wasn't our fault anyway. It was those old guys. We're not the old guys, and let's prove it. Like something like that.
It makes sense to me, but I assume the hashtag is still alive and well out there.
Oh yeah, I mean this of course started a whole new tsunami of that.
Well, good.
So
assuming people are being good about how they approach it, I guess is what I want to say, because we all know my feelings about the release of the Snyder Cut movement and how I think some people did it great and some people did it all kinds of effed up.
Yeah.
But going down that same road, listen, the Snyder Cut of or Zack Snyder's Justice League, as it wound up being released as, since its release has never, at least on mine, and I don't know if it varies from region or IPN to IPN. It's just the Zack Snyder's Justice League. Every time I'm scrolling through the popular movies on HBO Max, it's there. It hasn't left since its release. So somebody's watching that friggin' movie somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I know it ain't me that's watched it 6 times and left it alone. It can't just be me that keeps it in that category. There's got to be interest. There's got to be people. Sometimes both versions of it are up there. The Justice is Gray and the regular version. Just to put that out there too. I mean, the Justice is Gray version wasn't for me. I watched it once to see what was what, and I don't need to watch it again. I'm fine with the regular colorized version. But how this Ayer cut hasn't taken off with that same kind of gusto, especially with the Suicide Cut release, the Suicide Squad being released in a matter of a week or so at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised they didn't try to get it in there.
I agree. Again,
actively do it now.
Again, it seems like it would be so inexpensive, and yeah, it's free publicity. It's a great way to piggyback on the release of the new film. I guess I understand not wanting to steal focus from the new film, so I think there is an argument to be made for that, for holding it back because you don't want it essentially competing with the new film. You want the new film to be the story, not the 5-year-old film that you screwed up. So I do understand that. So maybe it is best to hold for a bit. But yeah, I just feel like if it was that close to done, it shouldn't be that hard to get it out there. And again, make amends. Like, how hard is it to just say, hey, sorry, we screwed up your movie. Here's your version. We'll do better.
So
and I think that's what most people want.
Say they're sorry.
Yeah, I think that's what most people want. I guess it's just because if you're, I don't know, my guess, again, this is my guess, is if you're a studio executive, you don't want to show any signs of weakness, and that could be seen as that.
I suppose. But I mean, even an individual apologizing to another individual in private is a very difficult and hard thing to do. So to make an apology to 100,000 or 1 million or whatever the number of people may be that we screwed up on this movie's release, and here's our redo for that. I guess I see it, but I mean, if you're not even the one that caused this and you're the new executive, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't see the logic behind not doing it at this point, other than what you just said about, yeah, they probably don't want that in the news with the current movie. I guess that makes sense, and I didn't really consider that. I was thinking have it done and ready to release as the new movie comes out, so the two kind of go hand in hand. But I guess
yeah. It kind of, you can see it
there
both
would be
ways.
enough negative surrounding that they wouldn't want that to detract from the
Exactly.
film.
You don't want that to be the story. You want the story to be the new movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway,
and it's not like there's another one behind these two that they have to do it with. To my knowledge, everything else is pretty much okay from that point on. So we're not going to make a habit out of this unless people start pushing for like the Red Book edition of Batman or Batman Forever. I mean,
that's happening too. So,
well, you get my point. It's not like they're going to make them do it for Wonder Woman and for Aquaman and for all the other movies that have been Shazam. None of these other movies have suffered this
right
injustice.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to not just do it and be done with it at this point.
Yeah. So, anyway, thought it was worth mentioning. Again, my heart goes out to David Ayer, again, just because he is such a stand-up guy. I would love to see his version of the film, especially because he mentioned it was all Stephen Price's score, and I own that score, and it's so great, and it always did kind of drive me crazy that you don't get more of it in the film. I don't mind the needle drop music. I really don't. I actually like a lot of it.
Most of the choices were fine, but to me, when you're having that many songs and shifting in and out of that many songs in a movie, it can become distracting.
I agree. There were so many of them that you're right. It gets distracting.
It was simply overdone. A little restraint would have gone a long way in that particular area. But
for sure,
I've listened to the score independent of the film, and I agree with you. It's a very good score. I'm not sure I can pick a note of the score anywhere in the movie as it exists.
Mm-hmm.
And not that I watch it with a lot of regularity. I think I've seen the movie probably 5 or 6 times in total since its release in the theater.
Yeah.
My daughter watched it almost every day when she was going through her Harley Quinn phase, but still, it's just the score is not a standout in the film itself, which is unfortunate because it is a good score.
It's so good. That's just like as someone who loves movie scores, I remember buying it, even though to your point, after seeing the movie, I didn't walk out thinking about the score, but I bought it anyway, just out of principle, and I listened to it on its own. I'm like, God, this is so good, and it's a shame it isn't used more in the movie.
Honestly, I don't know if I ever would have listened to the score if you hadn't brought it up all them years ago.
Yeah.
And you were right, and it's something that got left to the wayside, like so many other things, apparently, with the finished film as opposed to the released film.
Mm-hmm, for sure. All right, well, I hope the Ayer's version gets out there one of these days. It would be awesome. I'd love to see it. Anyway, it's funny. Yeah, I'm in a weird spot where I like the film we got. I still like it. I'd love to see his version, and I'm still looking forward to the new one. I can like all those things.
Isn't Fandom coming soon?
I think so. I think it comes in a couple, is it middle or end of August?
I think that's what sounds right to me. I mean, hell, wouldn't that be an ideal time to release it after Suicide Squad's had a couple of weeks in the theater and HBO Max?
Yeah.
Anyway,
well,
probably one of those things probably won't happen, but it's not like it couldn't at this point.
Right. More to catch up on later once we get back to a regular recording schedule. All right, and then again, I said there were a lot of great reviews coming in for the Suicide Squad, so I just want to share a couple of those reactions. Variety says, the Suicide Squad, make no mistake, is a grand, scaled down and dirty throwaway. James Gunn has directed it like a bad boy, though that was his mandate. In fulfilling it, he's proven himself to be a good boy, but he knows how to dip into the gutter with style. Deadline says, I had a blast. If you're a fan of the original comic book, this squad is the real deal. Interestingly, the film's title makes no reference to the previous movie, which means there is no 2 next to it. And then it goes on to, again, shit on the original movie. Whatever, I'm not going to read the rest of that. Joe Blow says, the Suicide Squad is a magnificent masterpiece of mayhem. I loved every single minute of James Gunn's bold new entry into the DC Cinematic Universe. Every single actor fully embraces the brazen insanity without holding back. The laughs are consistent. The creature design is impeccable. Do I even need to mention that he once again brought together a gloriously impressive set of songs to enhance his feature? Sure, if you aren't a fan of Gunn's outrageousness with a heart, you may not find the gleeful enjoyment of this feature, yet that's also what makes the film so batshit entertaining. It's Mr. Gunn's voice here in every scene, in every blood-soaked encounter, every brilliantly placed song, and every moment of humor and heart. It's because of James Gunn, as well as the incredible talent he brought with him.
Who wrote that? Does it say, or is it just...
It just says Joe Blow. I would have to check.
Okay, no big deal. I just wondered if it was Bunbury that said it, because I always am curious to see what Chris Bunbury says in regards, because he doesn't generally follow the fanboy mindset. So I find if he's being generous to a superhero film, there's usually some foundation to it. Versus, some of the people out there just plain hate the genre. Some people just plain love the genre, and then some people like Chris are just they're going to call a movie as they see it.
Yeah, this one it says Jimmy O. Okay,
so that's like the head guy, which he tends to lean a little more geeky than some of the other ones. I mean, no disrespect either way intended here. I mean, love him or hate him, he kind of leans taste-wise for the people out there a little bit like Harry Knowles.
Okay.
If that helps somebody gauge it. So
yeah. And then here's what Entertainment Weekly says. It says, by the psychedelic finale, whose stompy shenanigans fall somewhere between Godzilla and Ghostbusters on the jumbo scale, Gunn is fully leaning into the midnight movie camp and subdividing his motley crew of anti-heroes into bad and better. Those endgame loyalty tests and the inevitable post-credit scene that follows do the groundwork of setting up a sequel if another one should be deemed worthy. Unless, of course, they choose, as it is now suicide prerogative to do, to wipe the slate entirely and start again.
Sounds like somebody's asking for what I was asking for there.
So, anyway, exciting stuff. Glad people are loving it. Glad it sounds like it's really good. I'm about to head to Vermont for a wedding, and that's when the movie opens. So it's one of those things where it's like, maybe we can find a theater in Vermont. Otherwise, I might have to wait until I get to Florida. I might have to wait a week.
Okay, then.
It's ridiculous. All right, well, the Suicide Squad is coming. And then, like we said, I think recently, the following week also includes Stargirl and Titans. So August is going to be a good month for DC fans. And it's all starting in just a few days. So lots to look forward to, Jamie.
All right.
All right. Well, now let's, before we finish up, I think we're caught up on most of the big news. But we, of course, have to check in with you fine feathered finks as we crack open the Wayne Manor mailbox. It's time again for the Wayne Manor mailbox.
You've got mail.
Darren, what is a letter for me?
Maybe temporary.
She wrote a letter.
You're one hell of a messenger. This is all Master Wayne.
All right. This first email here comes from our old pal Chris, the Objective Geek. It says, hey guys, quick question. Who are your top 5 Batman voices in animation or live action? Mine would be Affleck in BVS, Bale in Batman Begins, Ben McKenzie in Batman Year One, Bruce Greenwood in Under the Red Hood and Young Justice, and number 1, Kevin Conroy. And are there any that you don't like? It took me a while to warm up to Jason O'Mara. Thanks, Chris. Interesting question, Jamie. Who are your top 5 Batman voices?
I mean, I really like Affleck's a lot, so I think he would definitely make my list. Conroy's a legend for a reason. I mean, he would certainly make my list. The other ones, I'd really have to put some thought into it. I mean, Keaton's I thought was good. Bale's didn't bother me the way that it did so many other people. I think I agree with general sentiment. Batman Begins was better than Dark Knight and Rises, just because it was a little bit more restrained, but I still don't mind what he was going for there. I don't know. I don't even remember. I know Greenwood did it. I know Peter Weller did it for Dark Knight Returns. I really liked his turn in there, but of course I may be a little slanted on that one. I don't know. The other ones I'd really have to put some thought into.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to try and pick 5, top 5. So obviously Kevin Conroy. These are in no particular order, but Kevin Conroy, obviously. Keaton, because Keaton's is understated but still so effective. Affleck, for a lot of the same reasons, honestly. I love Bruce Greenwood in Under the Red Hood and Young Justice. I think he's perfect. And then I would go with Diedrich Bader for Brave and the Bold. It's a very different Batman, but just as good.
Put him on my list too. I really like his turn in.
Yeah, he's amazing. And honestly, one of the ones that didn't really work for me was Ben McKenzie in Year One. I have not rewatched it in a long time, so maybe my memory's fuzzy, but I just remember when I watched it, I didn't quite get... I don't know, it didn't quite sound like Batman to me.
It's been so long since I watched that, I can't even place the voice, so I couldn't comment either way there.
Yeah. All right, next message here is from Jacob. It says, hey, Holy Batcast. I'm a huge fan of Batman as well as a fan of the show. I recently got into the animated world of Batman, and I'm loving it. I'm curious, though, do you have a review of Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns animated film? If not, are you planning on doing one? One last thing, I love all your ranking episodes. The ranking of the Batsuits and the Batmobiles are favorites of mine. Can you do an episode ranking the animated Batman films? I think that would be fun. Thanks for all you do. Love the podcast. Keep up the great work, Jacob. Thanks, Jacob. Well, your first answer is, shockingly, we have not done an episode reviewing the Dark Knight Returns animated movie.
We were going to save it because I believe this year is the 5th anniversary, but who knew that Andy was going to get life in the way of things? And
that's the worst.
It's kind of got pushed by the wayside, and now we're going to be trying to dig ourselves out of the hole that we're dug in for the rest of the year, which no big deal. I mean, that's just how things go. Life gets in the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm certainly game to do, a commentary or review, both. Whatever you decide to do when we get an opening, I'm good for. So
yeah, no, it is one that we have been wanting to do forever, and it's shocking that we have not had a chance to do it yet. So we will figure out a way to do that. It is long past due, and then ranking the animated Batman films would be really fun too. So I'm down for that too.
Wait, this wouldn't be the 5-year. That came out in 2012, didn't it?
So it's almost the 10-year.
So it'd be 10-year next year.
Perfect. Let's
right?
Try to remember that.
I don't know. What actually I think maybe one came out in 11 and one came out in 12, or one in 12 and one in 13. I don't even remember anymore. We'll have to do some research on that. But any which way, I'm game for it because damn, I love that thing.
All right. Sweet. All right, next message is from our old pal Mark Bickford. It says, hey guys, I already got one email in the mix for this show, so I'll keep the niceties except to say I hope Andy's wedding went wonderfully and that all is well with everyone's families. I assume you saw the photo that David Sandberg put out showing the Shazam family in their snazzy new outfits. Oh yeah, that's another thing I don't think we've talked about. I'm wondering what you thought not only of the outfits, but of the news that Michelle Borth has apparently been replaced as Mary Marvel by Grace Fulton herself. I liked Michelle in the role, but I have to admit in that photo, Grace looks like she stepped out of the comics, and I liked her as Mary Bromfield, and I'm looking forward to her in the role. Why do you think the switch was made? Maybe because they didn't like Michelle in the role in the first Shazam, which could be why most of her fight scenes were cut. Or maybe someone didn't like having Mary Marvel, who is over 40 years old. Or maybe it was because of her politically oriented tweet from January. I tend to doubt it was the last, mainly because it seems to me that if WB is doing something specifically for political reasons, they tend to be loud about it, like the fate of Ralph Dibny on The Flash. I'm wondering about your thoughts. Have a great week, Mark. Thanks, Mark. There was a photo released of the Shazam family in their snazzy new outfits, and yeah, as Mark said, they confirmed that Grace Fulton is both, is her alter ego and Mary Marvel. Thoughts on that, Jamie?
I really don't have a dog in this hunt, so I'm good either way.
Yeah, it's so funny.
I don't think I think I saw the photo, but I don't think I took any time to stop and actually look at what the photo was for or what it was saying, if that makes any sense. Like, I thought somebody just made a post and I just kind of skipped by it.
Yeah.
But I vaguely recall seeing them all standing there together.
Yeah. Well, I will say the new suits look amazing. Like, I'm really into them. I think they're great. And I did think it was an interesting choice that now Grace Fulton's going to be playing both. What's funny is in the first film, and what's her name? Michelle Borth. She looked so much like Grace Fulton that I wasn't even sure they changed actors in the first movie. I even had to like look closely and go, wait, is that someone new? And I understood like the consistency of, well, everybody turns into someone new. There can't be one who doesn't. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Everyone should change. And now with the new one, I have mixed feelings because yes, it breaks that consistency where like now everyone does transform into someone new except Mary Marvel, which is a little weird. But at the same time, Grace Fulton looks so great as Mary Marvel that I'm willing to forgive it. It's okay. As for why they would make the change, I have no idea. I don't know anything about Michelle Borth. I don't know anything about her political leanings. All of that is news to me. I do think she got the shortest thrift in the finale of Shazam, which is one of my nitpicks of that film. I wanted to see a little bit more of her. So, yeah, I mean, maybe her stuff wasn't as good, which is why she's less, like, we see less of it. I don't know.
Well, I mean, are we assuming that these kids, when they do the whole Shazam thing, turn into different people? Or are we assuming that they're turning into themselves at an advanced age? Because if we're assuming they're just increasing in age, she was the closest one to adulthood by age to begin with. So maybe that's why the change was made here.
Yeah, I do think that's the case. I think they're supposed to be themselves just plus whatever, 10, 15, 20 years.
No, just a stab in the dark there. Since she was the one that was oldest to start with, maybe that's why they decided to keep her the same actress for powered and not powered. I don't know. Just total stab in the dark there.
Yeah, it could be. Or it also could have been one of those things where it's like they look so much alike. Grace Fulton looks like Mary Marvel. Yeah, like why have to? So, all right. Moving forward, next message is from Brian B. It says, hey guys, my question observation is this. As has been apparent in my questions over the past couple months, I'm not a fan of Zack Snyder. I think he poisoned the DC well. Well, I'm not going down that route again. The one thing I noticed is DC fans who don't support the Snyder Cut or his films are called haters. Or the one that fries my circuits is not a true DC fan, which annoys me to no end. I was wondering if you guys have noticed this and your take. Personally, as someone who loves DC, I feel ostracized by the fandom sometimes because of this. I really wanted to like his version of things, but I can't lie and say that I do. I get turned off by his films, and lately the backlash to people who don't like them, or the backlash to people like me who don't bend the knee. Side note, I also didn't care for Army of the Dead. Secondly, to make this a bit more positive, is there something in Batman media that cheered you up when you were at your lowest? Mine was watching The Dark Knight Rises 2 years ago. After being let go from a job and seeing Batman climb out of the pit, it made me realize everything will be fine. I just have to get out of this pit I was in. While it sounds cliche, I can't explain how low I was at that moment, and seeing that scene cheered me up. 2 years later, I currently have a great job, I'm in a great place, so much like the Bat, I was able to get out, minus the cheering crowd. As always, thanks for the hard work, and Andy, I also put ketchup on hot dogs, so don't feel too ashamed of it.
I was going to support this email fully until right at that moment. Now both of you have to go. Bye.
I mean, I won't make you eat it, but I like it. Cheers, guys. Brian. Thanks, Brian. Oh, man. All right, so question one, how do you feel about if someone doesn't like Snyder's version of the DC universe? Sometimes they feel like they, kind of get hated on or ostracized.
He's right. I mean, so many people who avidly defend Zack Snyder are so overboard in the way that they defend Zack Snyder that they will become venomous, if you will, towards other people. They get nasty because they don't like their boy being dissed. And you know what? Zack's my boy too. But you know what? I also recognize, and Zack would probably be the first to back me up on this, it's okay if people don't like his movies. Mm-hmm. It truly is. He's not making movies for everybody. He's making movies for people who like Zack Snyder movies. If that works for you, fantastic. If it doesn't work for you, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no reason to attack somebody because they don't like the way Zack Snyder does things, because Zack truly does things differently than anybody else. Mm-hmm. Just like Nolan did things different than everybody else, which I'm going to circle back around to in just a second, by the way. Or Schumacher did it different, or Burton did it different. Everybody that's tackled a Batman movie on a screen so far, or even to a certain degree the animated films or the comic books, writers do things in different ways, directors do things in different ways, and some of it's going to work for you, some of it's not. I mean, not everybody can love everything, and that's okay. He mentioned the thing that he thinks Snyder poisoned the DC well. You're certainly entitled to that opinion, but if I want to play devil's advocate to that, I'm going to say I think Nolan's the one that poisoned that well. And bear with me here in that I love all three Nolan films. The second one of his trilogy is my favorite movie of all time. But Christopher Nolan doing those movies the way that he did them, to the success and acclaim that they received financially and critically, has made so many people, WB executives, filmmakers, what have you, they want to either try and match that level or get one over on that level of grittiness, of realism, or anything else. And I think that, to an extent, has been what's poisoned that well, of people not wanting to do Batman more like, I've said for a few years now, but the next iteration of Batman, I want to be less Dark Knight and more Brave and the Bold, because I want Batman to start leaning more towards that fantastical side, because I think that's the version that we've seen the least on screen at this point. Versus now, we've got somebody making Batman films, probably a trilogy, and I'm not dissing Matt Reeves, and I'm not, saying what he's doing isn't going to be great, because it might be, but his version is clearly trying to get one over on the Nolan version as far as grittiness and realism. I think Snyder tried to take it one step past what Nolan did with grittiness and realism and how his Batman was portrayed on screen with Ben Affleck. So to me, the poison in the well was not actually the poison itself, just the success that those Nolan films had, and somebody trying to emulate that or be better, quote, in air quotes for good for radio, better than that since. And nobody's tried to shift it in a completely opposite direction, and I think that's unfortunate, because there's more Batman to be had out there than pissed off all the time, dark, gritty, realistic, psychotic Batman. Sorry, that was a really long tirade for just one little thing that he had in the email, but I just wanted to put that out there, that I don't see things exactly the same way, but you know what, man? We're all entitled to our opinions.
Yeah. I mean, I get what he's saying, and I do think it's true. I think I've said it even in the past, is there are DC fans, there are Snyder fans, there are DC Snyder fans. There are all these little subsets of fandom. And you're right, like the Snyder loyalists who like only what Snyder does can be very negative.
They're very closed-minded.
They can be very aggressive to people who don't like Snyder stuff, and vice versa. And the people who like DC but hate Snyder stuff can be just as aggressive towards the people who appreciate Snyder stuff. And I live somewhere in the middle here where I love Snyder stuff, but I also get that it's not for everyone, and that's okay too. So yeah, it's weird, and it's a shame that you can't go, you know what, this one's not for me, but for the ones who go, it's not for me also, and it's an invalid interpretation or whatever, is a completely different story. So yeah, it's crazy. I get where you're coming from, and it's a shame that it is that way, but it is that way. And for me as a DC fan, it's very frustrating for me to see the fandom split like that, where there is these factions, right? And I see it every day, and it's very frustrating, because as someone who just loves DC and wants great DC content, I wish we were all on the same team, but it doesn't always feel that way.
It's part of the reason I don't have the social media footprint that I once did. I'm tired of seeing people be ugly to each other over such inane things.
Yeah. And then something Batman related that has cheered you up or picked you up, Jamie.
Go ahead with this one. I'll see if I can come up with a good answer. I was so focused on that other part of it, I'm not quite ready for this one yet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a specific instance in mind, but I can tell you, like, I use Batman 89 as a comfort movie a lot. If I'm feeling a little down or I just need something that makes me feel a little better, I put it in just because when I watch it, a lot of times it just sort of takes me back to when I was 10 years old and watching it for the first time. And so it certainly helps cheer me up in that respect. But yeah, it's not like I've ever been in a specific situation where I've needed to call on Batman content to pull me out of it.
Yeah, I don't know that I can recall a specific thing that is a I hate to use the word, but for lack of a better word to come up with on the fly here, crutch to get out of one of those situations. Batman just kind of makes me feel good all around. I mean, I guess the best example I'll give you is I took the day off work yesterday because we got 2 new puppies in the house, and I spent the whole day, getting them acclimated. First of all, we had to drive them home because it was like a 45-minute drive to the rescue place that had them. Got the dogs home and everything else. And yesterday I was wearing a Batman shirt, and while I was, getting the dogs, 2 different people said something about cool shirt. It was just a gray Batman shirt with the yellow oval in the middle of it. And today I'm wearing an old Batman 66 style logo on a blue t-shirt. And I put these shirts, I don't wear these to work, and I usually work 6 days a week. So like Sunday's the only day I'll get to wear my geek shirts like this. And now I've worn one on a Saturday and Sunday back to back, and putting on those shirts in the morning just somehow just makes me feel good. Like, it doesn't make me feel like I got superpowers or nothing like that. It feels good to wear these shirts and, show off my geekdom to people. So I guess in that sense, it gives me comfort and makes me happy. If that kind of fits anywhere near what that question was asking.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Let's move forward. This next one's from our pal Stephen Marshall. It says, "Hey guys, hope you're doing well. I wanted to jump on a couple of things in your last few episodes. First, when asked if you'd like James Gunn to direct a Batman film, and you guys correctly pointed out how it wouldn't likely suit his sensibilities, we'd also heard that he had been offered Superman prior to Suicide Squad, and I think that the same applies. However, he's recently said that he'd love to do a Suicide Squad versus Superman film, and I'd actually be okay with that, as it would be Superman appearing in the Squad world. So I was wondering, would you be okay if Gunn used Batman in a Squad film in a supporting role? Secondly, when asked about another Justice League, I personally don't want some of the originals and then some replacements for Batman and Superman. It just feels like settling to me. I think if you do another Justice League in 5 years, they should just do what they're going to do with Mortal and what they were going to do with Mortal and hire a young cast and have it be its own thing. That way they could do multiple sequels and spin-offs. What do you think? Anyway, sorry for the longish email, Steven." Thanks, Steven. Okay, Jamie, what do you think? Like, if James Gunn were to do another Suicide Squad film and Batman appeared in that, would you be more okay with that?
I'm going to tentatively say probably, almost certainly, but let me see his Suicide Squad movie, and then I can probably give you a much better answer.
Yeah,
so send
true.
in another email in a couple of weeks asking that same question, saying, remember I said this. So I'll know to answer the question more appropriately at that time. But tentatively, I can pretty comfortably say, yeah, I think I'd be okay with that, because at that point, Batman or Superman or whoever would not be the focal point, and I'm not reliant on Gunn getting his character right as the centerpiece of everything else. And I think Gunn is a smart enough guy and a talented enough guy to recognize that I think he could probably get it okay with Batman or Superman or pretty much any character, because he seems to be a geek like us. He seems to have an understanding of these characters, maybe even better so than some of us. Probably better than me, because he's read way more comics than me at this point, I'm sure, doing his research for Suicide Squad and Guardians and what have you. But it just, as a general feeling, I don't know. I don't feel quite right having him at the helm of either of those two. And that's not to say he wouldn't do great. He very well might. But, getting off the rant and back to the original question, yes, I think in a smaller role, I think it would be fine.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I wouldn't have an issue with that. If he were to do another Suicide Squad and Batman showed up in it, no, I'd be cool with that. I'd be interested to see. Maybe he could convince me that he would do a good Batman movie, depending on how he uses it in a Squad film. So I'd be okay with that.
Yeah. Maybe even let him have a shot at something like Public Enemies, where it's Superman and Batman dealing with all those villains.
Yeah.
I love Public Enemies to death. I know it's not the greatest animated film ever made or anything, but I just adore the hell out of that movie. If you want to give Gunn something like that, where Superman and Batman have some comedic moments bouncing off of each other throughout that film. So yeah, I could probably roll with that even, but like having Gunn do like a focused Superman film or a focused Batman film, for some reason, just mentally, I can't get past that.
Yeah. And then as for Justice League, you'd rather do something like Mortal, where it's just a whole new young cast and its own thing. What do you think of that, Jamie?
I still think that's probably WB's aim at this point. I mean, the Justice League conversation can't have ever left the table, even with the fiasco of the 17 release and the Snyder Cut and all the other things that have happened in the course of the last 4 years or so. It has to be something that is on somebody's mind in an executive room somewhere. So they have to have an idea. And I still can't help but believe, I don't think we're going to see another Justice League film until it gets rebooted. And I could very well be wrong, because you all know how my predictions are incredibly inaccurate to an alarming degree. But I think it's probably going to be a rebooted cast altogether before we see Justice League on a big screen again.
Yeah, I think that's probably true, and I think that's okay. I wouldn't want them to do that while the other versions are going, though. I mean, of course, I'd still go see it, and I'd get over it, but I just feel like it's just, to have like an Aquaman solo franchise going and a Wonder Woman solo franchise going or a Flash solo franchise going, and then having a Justice League franchise with new versions of all of those, I think would be really weird. I don't think I'd be as excited about that. I'd much rather use the versions we already know and love. Or, like Jamie's saying, you wait until it's all rebooted and then it all does become, the same cast of characters. I think I'd prefer that.
And once again, the wild card there is the alleged Flash movie.
Yeah.
I don't believe it's coming.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a trailer. I still don't believe it's coming. That's the wild card in this, because they could literally just reset everything just like that. And we're right back in business with Justice League, with Gal Gadot and Michael B. Jordan as Superman and Michael Keaton as Batman and Momoa as Aquaman and Black Adam. I mean, all those could be just right there in that mix. Just snap of a finger. It just takes one event of Barry screwing up the timeline. You know what I'm saying? And we're right there again.
Right.
But until we see this alleged movie, we won't know.
Yep. All right, next message is from Tom Vallows. It says, "Hey guys, I hope you're well. We've had our choice of actors for Batman every time an old actor leaves, but sometimes I look at actors and think he would have made a great Batman. For me, it's James Garner. I was recently watching The Great Escape, and I thought he would have made a great Batman in the 60s. So what actors from the past do you think would have made a good Batman? Thanks for the great podcast, Tom Vallows." Thanks, Tom. What do you think, Jamie? Any past actors you think would have been a great Batman if things had gone differently?
First off, I love James Garner, because I don't know how many people out there are aware of this, but I certainly am. That guy was a huge Raiders fan. So, and he was a really good actor too. I mean, Maverick is one of my favorite movies of all time, with Mel Gibson and Jodie Foster, and he is so good in that, man. Everybody's on point in that movie. It's fantastic. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I could actually see that. We've had discussions about this in the movie group, and Jimmy Stewart's been thrown around. That would have been intriguing at some point, seeing him. But man, I don't know. There's so many choices out there to consider.
Yeah, like old school. I've always said Cary Grant would have been a great Batman.
Yeah, that'd be a good one. Yeah, certainly.
So I would have loved that. But I'll throw out a more recent one just because he had been bandied about. I want to say somewhere around Batman 89. I feel like he was one of the options, was Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell when he was 35, I think, in a different timeline would have been a great Batman.
I don't think of too many Kurt Russell roles I don't love. So yeah, I'm
and maybe that's it. Maybe I just would watch him in anything, but
I mean, who wouldn't? Who doesn't love Kurt Russell? I mean,
but yeah, I think it'd be great.
I for some reason, I remember the summer of '89 was right before, that was, the summer of Batmania. And I went to high school that fall. I started high school in fall of '89. And I was in the locker room at football. And of course, at that time is when I had the bat symbol shaved in the back of my head. And the juniors and seniors on the football team were talking about, Michael Keaton shouldn't have played Batman. It should have been Arnold Schwarzenegger, or it should have been Sylvester Stallone. And guys started doing like impressions of Stallone and Schwarzenegger saying I'm Batman and stuff. And it just became chaos in the locker room. Hysterical. But anyway, that, you think about guys like Schwarzenegger or Stallone would have been like the big action heroes of the time to, play it during that era.
Yeah. All right.
Chuck Norris is Batman. How about that?
Sure, why not? All right, next message is from Liam Knight. It says, "Hey guys, long-time listener, first-time writer. I hope you're well. Thanks for all the great work. Given that you share my love for Batman the Animated Series, the finest iteration of Batman, which episode would you like to see have a live-action adaptation? Personally, I think The Man Who Killed Batman would be great if adapted, with a Jason Bateman type as Sid the Squid. All the best, Liam Knight. Thanks, Liam. Sign me up for that. I think that's a great idea. I think that would be really fun. But anything else? Jamie, another Batman the Animated Series episode that should be a movie.
Well, I've made it well known that my favorite is Over the Edge, but I don't know how well that plays as a movie. I'd watch it. I don't know how many other people would. I think the one that would probably work best out of the popular episodes would either be Heart of Ice or Almost Got Him.
Nice. Yeah, I was definitely going to say Heart of Ice, of course. And sure, we got elements of it in Batman and Robin, but I would just like to see it done a little more straightforward, a little more serious. So that's a very obvious one, but absolutely. The other one I thought of, Christmas with the Joker.
I'd watch the hell out of that too. Don't get me wrong.
Because I want a Christmas Batman movie. Again, another one.
What's the, is it Girls Night Out or something like that?
Yeah.
That'd be a good one, but that would be more of a Gotham City Sirens versus a Batman movie, I think. But I don't know. There's a lot of great choices to pick from, I think.
I agree. Yeah, honestly, you could pretty much pick almost anything. And I'd watch the hell out of it.
What's
Robin's Reckoning? How many?
Up and says Batman with the farmer guy. I need that for a live action movie.
Oh, the farmer one?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Just because it makes me laugh when that goat says Batman.
Maybe not. Maybe not all of them. I was gonna say Robin's Reckoning. How many times have I said that should be your Robin movie?
You and Milks both have been championing that for the 10 years that I've known the two of you, in that's the ideal way to introduce every Robin into continuity.
Yeah. All right. Onward. Oh, this is the Objective Geek again. He says, I got 2 questions involving Christopher Nolan. Number 1, a long time ago, after Man of Steel was released, but before Batfleck was announced, there was a rumor that Nolan and Bale were going to be coming back to DC. How do you think things would have unfolded if the DCEU would have included this? Would it have been better received or more financially successful? And number 2, if Nolan ever returned to DC, what story or characters would you like to see him take on? If they ever adapted Doomsday Clock, I think he'd be a good fit because I could really see him playing with Dr. Manhattan, who is constantly going through time. Anyway, keep up the great work, Chris, the Objective Geek. Thanks again, Chris. Interesting. So if the shared DC universe would have included Bale's Batman and Christopher Nolan's involvement, how do you think things would have changed, Jamie?
I know WB certainly must have thought that was the way to go, because they were backing up enormous Brinks trucks to both of those guys' houses to resume their roles, respectively, being Nolan and Bale. In fact, I think I remember the number thrown at Bale was $35 million. Does that sound right?
I don't know, honestly.
Of course, that was back when I read everything on the internet, so that might have been one of those bullshit sites that put that out there. I don't know. But you would think the proven established success of the Nolan trilogy would have certainly had people be far more receptive